Hey everybody. So you may have read recently some news concerning rabbis and any clergy members getting up there and showing favoritism to one political candidate over another. Used to be that was a bit of a no-no, but not anymore. As reported in today's Miami Herald and elsewhere, the Internal Revenue Service is reversing a long-standing policy and will now allow religious institutions to endorse political candidates without jeopardizing their tax-exempt status. Now you can get up there and say how much you love Trump and want him to go to a third term, or how much you hate Trump and avoid him. But any political candidate used to be you shouldn't endorse one over another, but now, no problem, you will not lose your 501c3, your nonprofit status for doing that. Okay, still a bad idea. Still a bad idea. I'm not talking about the global ramifications. And obviously this thing, this law, the impetus behind it were these large evangelical churches. Okay, be that as it may, on a more local, personal sense, this is not a great idea for rabbis to do and get up and do that. Why? Because if you take one side over another, you pick the Democrats, what are you going to do? You're going to alienate the Republican people in your shul. And if you start endorsing a Republican, you're going to alienate the Democrat in your shul, the Democrat. So here, it's a no-win situation. The bottom line is, and we know politics have become very, very, very passionate and emotional. Broken up families, we hear of all kinds of things going on because of the hatred and the deep animosities that one side feels towards the other, both ways. And so shul should be a place where everyone feels welcome. You shouldn't pick one side or another. What good could come from that? And let's face it, in all these political discussions and arguments that you have, how many minds have you really changed? How many have you really changed? So it's best to just kind of like leave the whole thing out, especially for a rabbi or any clergy member to do that, because you're just going to alienate the people who don't agree with you and they won't want to come back. And especially in shul, let's face it, we want everyone to feel welcome no matter what they feel politically. But it goes deeper than that. And here's my main problem with it. And that is rabbis who spend too much time talking politics and not enough time talking Torah. That shul should be a holy place. It should be a sanctuary from everything else, and certainly politics. And let's face it, when I was a kid, the news, my father used to watch Walter Cronkite, 6:30, you got news for a half hour every day, that was it. And you got the newspaper, okay, that was it. But then cable news network came along, and now you had news 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And everyone said, oh man, it's so much. And now with our phones and the access to everything, we just get inundated with news and politics and such. The last place we need to hear more politics is in shul. Let's have like a little break, a little like leave it out. Because shul is a place where we should be focusing on becoming better people, learning Torah, learning mitzvot, working on our midot, working on our character traits, reading the Parsha. Shul is a place of eternal truths. It's not a place to just talk about the passing fancies of politics or anything else, which are here today and gone tomorrow. Because again, we get that all week long. We don't need to have it at a synagogue. I was talking with someone recently who he was complaining to me that every week his rabbi gets up there and it's always about something in the news, and he's tired of it. He wants to hear more Torah, true Torah things, and not something that's in the news that he could read about all week long. Not just news. And by the way, I remember once, in terms of what rabbis should be talking about, because then rabbis have people for a limited time generally in their synagogue. I remember giving a class once on the Jewish view of death and the afterlife. And in my history of giving that class, people who've gone to synagogues, I've heard them come up to me, and they came up to me afterwards and they say, you know what? In all my years that I went to my synagogue, The rabbis didn't talk about Olam Haba. They didn't talk about eternity. They didn't even talk about God. It's like, again, it's people who get exposed to everything but Judaism and Torah in a synagogue. And it should be the exact opposite. This law notwithstanding, let's keep it pure. And not just politics, but sports. Okay, if I mentioned, I think, a little anecdote, how I was very proud of myself in a certain sense that I didn't mention sports. In particular, the week after, the Florida Panthers won the Stanley Cup. So I gave my drasha, I gave my Shabbat morning talk, and a guy comes up to me afterwards and he says, I lost $300 because of you. Why? Because they took a bet in the back over there. These guys took a bet that the rabbi is going to talk about how I'll somehow worm in the Florida Panthers into my drasha, because let's face it, they just won the Stanley Cup for the second time, no less, See, I didn't mention it. He bet that I would. He lost money. I'm glad he lost that money. And again, the point here is shul should be a place of kedusha, of holiness, of Torah, of mitzvah, of learning to be a better person, a better Jew. Politics, we can get that all the time. Keep it off the pulpit, keep it off the Bima, stick to what's meaningful, the eternal truths of our Torah. And it's not just in terms of the rabbi representing that, anybody in shul. Let's keep all the hevle hazman, meaningless things that are all of that we get inundated all week long. Let's keep it outside the shul so we can keep the kedusha, the holiness of a shul to what it is, and only focus on those things which are important: Torah, mitzvot, and being a better Jew and human. Have a good Shabbat.